Welcome to my Accutane journey. What this series will be is every Monday I'm going to update you on how my progress is going on Accutane.
Oh my gosh, I was pretty dull in my first episode of my Accutane Adventures series, but this is a baseline of where my face was starting at the beginning of this journey. In this video, I'm going to show you what it looks like in the first 2 months of taking Accutane, because if you haven't heard of this yet, there's an initial breakout period that lasts for usually about 2 to 3 months where your acne gets way worse. So I want to paint the exact picture week by week for you so you can see exactly what's going to happen if you start Accutane.
So welcome to week 2 of my Accutane adventure.
Okay, so week 2, we're looking at my face, and you can see I have blackheads all over. That's something that I had already had before Accutane. I had a lot of red bumps and pimples and a couple of cysts before Accutane, but now they are starting to get worse. You see that big cyst on my forehead. You see a couple smaller nodular pimples and cysts on the side of my temples. You see a couple red marks everywhere. It's bad, but you just wait.
Hey everyone, welcome to week 3 of my Accutane adventure. This is the week that everyone is saying is going to be the worst week, and actually it's true.
Alright, so now you boys get a little bit more camera confidence. This series is definitely starting to pick up at this point. But you can see I have that forehead cyst is still there. I'm seeing quite a few new bumps and pimples on the face, but also I'm noticing a lot more inflammation. So there's a lot more redness. Things are swelling up a lot more. I also remember at this point things were starting to get a little bit more painful because there was a lot more pressure in the cysts that I did have. And that's something that up to this point, it wasn't quite this bad with the pressure. Something else I want to point out is that because I had such severe acne, it did take a bit longer for the initial breakout to really kick in because the amount of Accutane I was taking took longer to accumulate. And that's how Accutane actually works. It accumulates in your body, the vitamin A, which is what Accutane is. And then once it accumulates enough, that's when that initial breakout really starts picking up. And we're about to see that here in week 4. Macrocomedome! Macrocomedome! Indeed. You see that forehead pimple? Cyst, I should say. It was getting hefty, okay? It was getting hefty and painful. But they also upped my dose this week.
What they gave me this month. First off, they're upping my dose from 40 milligrams a day to 80 milligrams a day. So that means I'm taking, look at that, 2 pills a day, 1 in the morning, 1 at night.
All right, so they were having me check in with the doctor every month, and then they would assess by basically looking at my face and just being like, is it getting better? Is it not? And then they would up my dose. So they just doubled me from 40 to 80. And this is especially where we start to see that initial breakout getting even worse because we are kind of upping in severity, but we're about to see a straight parabolic rise here. As we do the close-up, we can definitely see that macrocomedome on my forehead is not going anywhere. If anything, it's just getting more swollen, and again, more pressure. I can't harp on that enough. It is so painful. But we can also see a couple of bumps on my cheeks. We're kind of seeing these bumps rotate around, but we have some deep bumps on my cheeks. Blackheads aren't going anywhere. That macrocomedome on my forehead really is like kind of the focal point here. That was the biggest, most severe thing that was happening up to this point. But let's check out week 5.
There's the macrocomedome. Bring it into focus. And right, remember last week it was pretty big. It was gigantic. This week it's still pretty big. I'll try to turn sideways, see if you can see how far it sticks off my head.
Okay, so it's actually really funny for me to watch these videos back now with hindsight. At this point, I really did think that my blackheads were surfacing, and I thought my blackheads were just going to push out of my face and be gone. I also at this point thought that I only had maybe a few months left. Oh, how wrong I was, because this whole Accutane course took over 70 weeks, which is ridiculous. As I'm looking at this footage, I see no difference in my blackheads. We are seeing a little bit of that pressure relief. It's getting a little smaller on my forehead cyst. And again, just rotating, dots and spots, moving around. The ones that were there that last week are gone, but then new ones are popping up in different places. So, really not that much improvement yet.
Welcome to week 6 of my Accutane adventures, everyone, and Merry Christmas. This week, I felt like I was clearing up in the middle of the week, like Tuesday, Wednesday. My face was really clear, and then I feel like the last couple of days I've really just started to break out, especially on the side of my cheeks. My forehead, my domage area is kind of going a little crazy.
Domage area. Using the technical terms, Brian. I like it. Okay, we can clearly see my camera presence is getting a lot better here. I'm getting a lot more comfortable and it's becoming a lot more fun to watch. It's kind of funny to hear me say that. I feel like somewhere in the last week, I was feeling like my skin was improving, but as we can actually see when we're looking at this footage, it clearly is not improving. It is only getting more severe. Absolutely. You have the forehead cyst that has still not gone away. If anything, it looks like it's kind of, resurged. Then we have a couple of new kind of, I almost want to say underground, but you can definitely see them. But we have some new cysts on the forehead that are going to develop in the future here. And then on the cheeks, it kind of looks about the same. It doesn't look like any new spots, but we definitely still have lots of little red spots there. Blackheads haven't moved at all. So week 6, it's the worst so far.
Lesson time, kiddos. Do not pick at your face. I tell you every week, don't touch your face. And what do I go and do? I pick at my face. And now, this is what happens when you pick on your face. This week, I feel like, the red bumps and small inflammation is starting to go away. But I do have these big old, cystic problems that are staying.
All right, week 7, definitely a bit of false hope here. And this is the point that I want to drive in. I think I had such optimism at this point, and I just wanted to, not only I wanted to be optimistic for myself, I wanted to be optimistic for my viewers so that everybody was like, yes, things are getting better for you, things will also get better for me, but I couldn't read the future, right? So I was always looking for the best way to describe my face. And if you're looking at my forehead, you can see that forehead comedome has now, it almost has another cyst that's so nearby that they've almost become like a dual cyst. And then we have quite a few other bumps all across my face. We have this new one on my cheek that is definitely a cyst that I decided to pop. So that's my own fault. That's not just naturally would have been like that, but I decided to pop it. So now we have a bit of a scab there as well, which takes even longer to heal when you're on Accutane. So if I could go back and say anything to my previous self as I was going through this, is basically it's gonna ebb and flow. Sometimes you're gonna feel like your acne really is improving and maybe the initial breakout is over, and then it's gonna get even worse than it's been this entire time. So patience is key, but also realistic expectations married with optimism and trying to look at the bright side of things. I think you absolutely need that because it doesn't go quickly, I'll tell you that much.
I got my next dosage of Accutane, which I'll be continuing at 80 milligrams a day, 40 in the morning, 40 at night, just like I have been. And things are improving a little bit. I'm starting to inflame a little bit less. I'm starting to break out a little bit less, which is good. We're seeing progress.
Okay, so week 8, we're seeing the giant forehead cyst come down. Finally, it actually, I do think, is improving right here, and I'm getting really excited about it. I'm glad that I showed my skin in sunlight, because when you're inside with this studio light, it's a completely different experience than in reality. When you're walking around in public, when the sun's beaming on you with the worst lighting possible, it literally almost felt like I had horns on my face, right? Like the amount of cysts you can see there, along with the major forehead cyst that we're already talking about, you can see quite a few other cysts that look like horns to me at that time, and that was something that I was very much so struggling with. But it does feel like here is when it's starting to get better. It does definitely look like the initial breakout has peaked. What is with this? This is not working at all. Freaking huge, giant cheek zit. This is horrible. What are you doing?
Get the hell out of here! I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm just so self-conscious. Just kidding, guys. I thought I'd have a little bit of fun. This is week 9 and things are looking up. No, they're not.
All right, so clearly I was getting a lot more confidence because at this time, there was about, a couple hundred people watching each episode. But as you can see, I have a new, almost as big as the forehead cyst, now on the side of my cheek. And that's something that I really want to point out, is that during your initial breakout, whatever type of acne you are prone to, for me, cystic acne, it's going to be whatever you're used to times 3, times 4 times 5. So get ready for that. So this is week 9. We're now past the 2-month point. And initial breakouts usually last about 1 to 2 months, sometimes 3 months, but clearly things are not improving that much. We do seem to have kind of leveled out. Like, we aren't getting worse, it's just that the severe acne, like the cysts, are moving around in positions on my face. So now what I want to do is move forward quite a few weeks. Let's jump forward to week 14, because from week 9 to week 14, I really did think, okay, the initial breakout has gotten to its worst and it is starting to improve. And from here on out, it's all downhill. It's all gonna get a lot easier. But then week 14 happened.
Get off my forehead! Get off my cheek! Go away! So from last week, we were hoping that this week would look a lot clearer, and we kind of had the idea that the initial breakout was over, but it looks like this week was worse than last week was, so I don't have any clue how this is gonna go.
So I said it right there in the video. I thought it was getting better, but this was the worst week by far, and we're 14 weeks into this. So now we're 3.5 months into this. Initial breakout should definitely be done and moving forward. We should be getting clearer every single week now. But like I said, sometimes you get this false hope where you're like, oh, it's getting better for a week or two, and then bam, it's the worst that you've had this entire time. Okay, now I know you're watching this video and you're like, okay, it just seems like it's never getting better. When does the initial breakout end for you, Brian? And I'm gonna show you. It's actually in week 19.
Yep. That's it, man. For the first 18 weeks, it seemed like it wasn't working. I was starting to get all these comments from people kind of, I don't know, being a little bit negative, right? They were saying, oh, I think it's making it worse, and I don't know why you're still doing it. Obviously, it's not helping at all. And then at the beginning of this week, I was like, wow, my face is starting to look a lot clearer. And now it's a lot clearer than, say, you know, go 4 weeks back. My face is a lot clearer. Obviously, it's not completely flawless Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson clear.
Obviously, it's not Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson clear, but it's looking pretty clear. I love the optimism that I had at this point, but also I think under that optimism, if I was really to take off that shiny, happy, exterior, I think what was happening deep inside of me was that I was just desperate to see progress. So much so that that's why I took Accutane in the beginning, and at this point, seeing an improvement, because I know it still looks very broken out to a lot of you, but this compared to multiple weeks ago, like I said, week 14 was a huge improvement. I didn't have a forehead cyst. I didn't have a massive cheek cyst. I definitely still had a lot of spots, but it's funny because in this video I even say, oh, we're actually looking pretty clear. But if you were to talk to the average person who never gets any pimples or even just gets like one little white head, they'd be looking at my face going like, whoa, dude, your face is broken out. But for me, this was pretty clear. So now we're into this almost 5 months, and finally, we're starting to see the initial breakout actually be finished peaking, and we're coming down. Now, I will not say that this was anywhere near close to the end of my Accutane journey, because if you continue to watch the videos, you'll see it's not like my face then was just every single week getting closer and closer and closer to getting clear. Now it kind of just stagnated, right? Instead of having like 8 cysts, then I would have like 1 or 2, and they'd rotate. Sometimes I'd have 3, and then sometimes I'd have 1. And so it did not necessarily mark the end of my acne being severe. More so, what I wanted with this video to show you is that the initial breakout is going to cause whatever you started with before Accutane to get, like I said, 2, 3, 4, 5 times more severe. And that can last 1 or 2 or 3 months if you're lucky, but it can also last 4 or 5 or even longer months. And then that's just the initial breakout. Then you still have to run the course for probably 2 times longer, maybe sometimes 3 times longer, to actually reach the point where your face is clear. This is not a video encouraging you to take Accutane or not encouraging you. All I wanted to do was I wanted to look through these videos that I made so many years ago, because I know not a lot of people even know they exist. That being said, I want to hear from you. Are you taking Accutane right now? Are you interested in taking Accutane in the future, or have you taken it in the past? I want to know if you have any advice or anything like that. It's always helpful to put it in the comments for other people. I do want to point out that if you do have acne and you don't want to jump on Accutane, I highly recommend to check out my acne program. It is only $10 and it's 10 steps steps, and it's roughly 10 weeks. And for loads of people, it has caused a huge transformation. And for some people like Savannah, it has gotten rid of all of her active acne, and now all she has to deal with is acne scarring and the redness that's left over, which is pretty badass. So if you want to check that out, it's theacnemethod.com. Of course, it's always in the description below. You can click the link right there. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you beautiful, amazing people in the very next video. Remember, you are not alone, you are beautiful, and you're part of Team Acne.